Hello and welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 39. I'm Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And today is, of course, it is April 8th, 2022. And this is a chillier day. See, I'm wearing back to warmer clothes. It's been had some beautiful days, even hot days, even had the air conditioning on. But we'll have a few cooler days. It's been windy. And we are also now in the pine pollen season. And if you have ever lived in the South, then you know what I'm talking about. It's a different kind of yellow snow. The air is sometimes so full of pine pollen that it looks like there's smoke in the air or something. It's very distinctive. And all of our decks and deck chairs and sidewalks and everything, cars, get covered with pine pollen. And that lasts about 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, and then thankfully it goes away. It's also the season of drifts of pink cherry blossom petals. And that's the picture that by the time you see this, I will have put at the beginning of this video, a picture of cherry blossom petals from our driveway, from our cherry tree. And it's a great thing to have drifted in your yard, as opposed to what I know some areas are still experiencing snow. It's only early April, and for the north, that's not unusual, really. It's nighttime. It's evening, I should say, late evening, later than I usually video. I've had a busy week, a busy day, and so it's evening. So you get weird reflections in my window, and you don't get to see the woods behind me. So sorry about that. I could have waited until tomorrow to record, but tomorrow is going to be a full day as well, so we're just gonna go with it tonight. So, Flosstube means I talk to you about cross stitch. Variety Show means I talk to you about other things, and we'll see what those turn out to be. I'm gonna first show you Purple Sampler, which is an improvisational piece that I'm creating for a friend of mine whose birthday is today. Happy birthday, Anne. She's commissioned it, actually, but I'm creating it. And I'm getting most of my ideas from this book, Ultimate Sampler Motif Source Book by Brenda. But I am beginning to chart a few things of my own. So I hope you can tell what that little triangular thing is that I've made. That is a tent, right? A tent. And above it is something that isn't finished, and you'll just have to wait till next time to see that, what it is. But maybe you could take a guess. What do you think? What do you think that is? So, and I will say that I think I possibly hadn't finished the tree last time either, so I have finished the tree. But it takes a surprising amount of time to chart something even as simple as the tent. I mean, there's no tent in the 19th century samplers don't tend to have tents pictured in them, which is what that book is mostly based on. So just to make that work out and make it look like a tent, decide where to put the different colors is not trivial. But there's that, very fun to work on. I mentioned last week that it was the first weekend in April, meaning it was the Blackbird Designs weekend, Stitch Along weekend, BBD weekend SAL is the hashtag, and I said I was probably going to work on this little piece here, and I did, and you can see I'm guessing I'm maybe not quite half done with it. So I have the vine in, I have some of the little centers of some little doodads that go around there, and the bird is finished. And there's more vine here And there's a strawberry here, and there's some smaller strawberries, a couple of them. There'll be an initial and the year, and it will be a cute little thing. It's designed to be made into a cylinder. I don't know if I'm gonna do that. We shall see. I did work on Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather this week, and I will swing around behind myself here to show this to you. I use a hoop, so I had it in the hoop. I did, believe it or not, I did a lot in this area. It's amazing how much stitching there is in there. So that's coming along. I'm at 37%, something like that. I need to pick up the pace on that. And I will. At some point, it will become the thing I most want to do. Lately, it hasn't been that thing, so we'll see. And in fact, speaking of things that I want to do, one thing that those of you who've watched my videos for a while will know is that I used to, last year, I had 5 or 6 projects going at a time. I had usually 5 projects plus a Blackbird. And since I only worked on the Blackbird pretty much the first weekend of each month, it didn't really feel like it was a whole project. It was just a weekend, every now and then project. And right now, I have actually only 3 projects plus Blackbird. I have Flea Market Flowers, I have the Purple Sampler, and I have Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather. And I feel as if I really need some more projects. So I have been debating about what I'm going to start. Now, I showed you quite a lot of things I've recently purchased on Etsy from Ukrainian designers, and I did get the fabric for the item I showed last week of the Ukrainian girl in her traditional Ukrainian garb with sunflowers. So I could do that, and I might do that. That would be probably fairly quick, although as you recall, the girl's dress is solid stitching, a lot of stitching. But back in possibly November, I think it was video number 23, I went through a lot of things that I had at that time, charts, patterns, that I was thinking of starting and didn't. I was very self-disciplined, and I did not start a lot of things back then, because I wanted to finish some things, which I finished. I finished the temperature tree, which I worked on all of last year, and I finished the Talavera Fox and Rabbit Designs Mystery Stitch Along. I finished that in mid-January or late January. And I finished the blue ornament piece, which I gave that away, and that's great. So I finished 3 things, and since then I've started the Purple Sampler. So that's really the only significant thing that I've started. Now, I had a couple of Blackbird things that I worked on, but last year I didn't really count that. So I've been thinking about, what do I want to start? So am I going to start the Ukrainian girl? Don't know. Oh yeah, I did that Forest Foxes Ukrainian design by the same person, Stitchy Princess at Etsy. But I feel the need to start something. Is it going to be this? Tiger Stare Snippet by Charting Creations. This is full coverage piece. It only uses 83 colors, and on 18 count, it's about 19.5 by 6 inches, so not that big. I have hesitated to start it because I don't want to have an easier full coverage project going, because I'm afraid that I will do the easier thing rather than keep working on Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather. And the thing that makes Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather hard is that it's hot, most of it is tons of confetti, which those of you who know a lot about cross stitch know that confetti is where in a small area there are many different colors of floss used. So, you know, 3 or 4 stitches of each color and 25 colors in a small area. That's what confetti is. In particular, if stitches are isolated, if there's a stitch and then 5 or 6 stitches away, there's another one of that color. Or worse, there's 3 stitches of that color and then 17 inches away, there's 23 other stitches of that color. That's what is true of Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather. Another thing that makes that hard is the fact that there are blended threads, that doesn't make it hard. It just means that whereas it may have only 100 and something different threads in it, there are also 150 blends. And so all together, there are maybe 200. Well, that doesn't all add up, does it? Well, there's a lot of thread, a lot of different colors in it. So, not colors, a lot of different symbols which require a different thread or thread combination, which just makes it hard. It's a little bit hard to decide to get that next thread out, or a couple of threads. So, the other thing that I showed back in November, which I really have been thinking about, are these tiny art items by Cross Stitch Obsession. And I have, I think, 5 or 6 of them. So this is a Monet, and this is Van Gogh. Here's another Monet. And these work up pretty small, 3 inches by 2 inches, something like that, right around there. I have 6 or 7 of the patterns, and there are now many more available from this particular designer, which they're not that expensive. I mean, you could buy all of them and make them all. They're very small, and I've seen a lot of, there's a Facebook group devoted to this designer and these projects, and there are many very clever ways that people are displaying them. I mean, it's a kind of silly. It is very silly to make these things. It's silly to make any cross stitch. It really is. That's not why we do it, because we don't do it because it's smart to do it. We do it because it's so enjoyable. And I've considered, and I think I'm ready to go on this one. I think I have all the colors, and I think it's ready. I have a piece of fabric that I could do it on. It'll be an 18 count Aida. I think that's what I want to do. This particular one is 31 by 38 stitches. It's less than 2,000 stitches altogether. I think it's about 40 colors. So I would kind of like to do that. I think I would, unless I do the tiger. The interesting thing about this is a full coverage piece, so it is a full coverage piece, and it probably, I haven't really studied the chart, it's probably a lot of confetti also. But it's tiny, very small, and it would be finishable in a short period of time. And I think that the reason that I feel drawn towards starting something else is because I find I tend to do cross stitch based on that I'm in the mood to do cross stitch. And I may be in the mood to do cross stitch, but I'm not in the mood to do the projects I have currently going. So having more projects going makes it more likely that my being in the mood to do cross stitch will match my being in the mood to do a particular thing. That's sort of my thinking about that. So I think that's what I'll do. So that's really all I have to say about cross stitch today. And I did want to touch on a few things from some recent videos. First of all, Any of you who made Tar Heel brownies and watched the Carolina Duke basketball game from last Saturday evening, April 2nd, what a game that was. No matter who you were a fan of, that was an impressive game. There were so many lead changes, maybe 18 or 19 lead changes, and the game was tied at times. Both teams played very well overall. Great defense, great offense, great, amazing shots. And the Tar Heels ended up winning that by, I believe it was 4 points or 3 points. It was quite a game. Very exciting. And we had some friends over, as I mentioned we ate brownies, Tar Heel brownies. The recipe is in the description box of my video last week if you want to get those. And I just can't tell you what a thrill that was to win that game. Then Monday night we played Kansas in the final game, in the national championship game, which, if you are a fan of college basketball, I'm not telling you any news that Kansas won that game by only 3 points. And really, we had the ball with 4.2 seconds or something left. And if we had been able to get a three-pointer to drop, we would have pushed that game into overtime. Now, the problem is we would not have, I don't think we could have won the game in overtime for the same reason that we couldn't win it in regulation, which is that we were just wiped out. We were so tired, our team was. I mean, yes, the fans were too. Believe me, it's exhausting to watch basketball in these big games, especially close games. But we only had 7 players, really, who played very many minutes. And one of our starters went into the game injured. He sprained his ankle during the Duke game 2 nights before. Another starter sprained his ankle during the Kansas game but kept playing. And another starter got clobbered in the face a couple of times early in the game. And, you know, he didn't have a broken nose. He didn't have a black eye that was obvious or evident at all. He kept playing as well. And our team played great. But Kansas played better at the times that it really mattered. And we ran out of gas. We just ran out of energy, I think. And this is why I think that even if we had been able to put it into overtime, I don't think we would have won. But it doesn't matter. It was a great season. It was really a great game. And I know that it's heartbreaking for us fans, as well as especially for the players, to lose a game like that. But our team has a lot to look forward to in the future seasons, because I think we're going to be very good. And our coach, Hubert Davis, seems to be really great. So that's a follow-up from last week. I'll talk a moment about this coming week. The next couple of weeks, we have a ton of things going on. Part of it is because it's Sunday is Palm Sunday, the beginning of Holy Week at our church. There's a lot going on, which doesn't affect, well, it mostly affects me, and it mostly affects my evenings. I have, I think it's next week, I think I have 4 evenings in a row with something going on. All evening. 2 of the evenings until midnight, I think, or maybe till 10. So it's going to be a big week. I also made a list maybe a month ago, of quilting projects that I have going or that I need to get going on. And I was saying to my friend Cindy, whom you saw in last week's video, I'll say a word about that in a moment. You know, I'm afraid I've bitten off more than I can chew. And I was actually kind of relieved that one of the people who had asked me about making them a quilt decided that they didn't want to. I said, you know, I'm worried. I've bitten off more than I can chew. And she said, Well, I don't think you've bitten off more than you can chew, but you do need to start chewing. So, so I do need to start chewing. And I made some very good progress these couple of days on some things that I need to get checked off of that list. And then finally, I'm going to just say, I hope you watched last week's video all the way to the end with that little 2-minute excerpt. Well, it wasn't an excerpt, it was the whole video that my friend Cindy and I made last year, because I watched it in the course of editing the video. Before recording the video, I watched it, and I watched it while editing the video, and really, Cindy is very funny. I'm very funny too. Don't get me wrong. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm hoping to have Cindy as a guest on my variety show, Flosstube and Variety Show, sometime coming up. And as I mentioned in that little video, in my intro to that video clip last week, at one point we thought she and I would do not a Flosstube, but a YouTube channel to promote our quilting. And so we may do that. I hope so, because I think it would be enjoyable. Even if you're not a quilter, I think you would enjoy Cindy and me together, because we have a lot of fun. Okay, that's all for now. Back up. The reason I started talking to you about how busy my week was next week was because I was going to tell you how busy my week was the following week also. Our son and daughter-in-law are coming Easter afternoon and spending a couple of days, and then we have some other things going on later that week. And I think that I will make a video probably 2 weeks from today, a Flosstube and Variety Show, number 40 it will be then, will be 2 weeks from today. I don't think I will do it next week. And the reason is not because I won't have time to make a video, but it's more because I don't think I'll have very much time to do much cross stitch. Just the way the days are shaking out, the things I'm doing in the evening, I can't really take my cross stitch along and work on it. So I won't have much in the way of progress to show. And I don't want to waste your time. Now, I might put out a special edition video, which won't be a Flosstube and Variety Show. It will be a particular topic. And the topic I'm thinking of is explaining how to play the game Jotto. Now, I mentioned this game maybe 6 weeks ago in one of my videos where I was talking about Wordle and Quordle and all those games, those word games, and talking about Jotto as a game that you can play over Zoom. And if you have not played it, it's really easier to learn it from somebody than to read about it. So I think I'm gonna make a video about how to play it. I was trying to figure out how to do that, and then I learned about how to record so that I can record the screen of my computer and myself. Not that you really need myself in it, but it just seems like if it's my video, you should be forced to look at my face, at least some of it. So that is what my plan is. Since I've figured out, I think, how to do that, I am going to try to do a brief video on how to play Jotto. And then perhaps you and your friends will decide you want to give it a try. Or you might want to say, hey, Emily, I want to learn to play Jotto. Let's Zoom, and maybe we could do that. So that's what I think might come up in the next, sometime before 2 weeks from today. So expect a regular Flosstube and Variety Show 2 weeks from today. And in the meantime, I hope that you have a wonderful Easter week if you celebrate that. A wonderful springtime, which whether you celebrate it or not, it is upon us, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. And I hope that you enjoy your stitching and any other crafts and hobbies or special baking or being out of doors that takes your fancy. So thanks so much for watching, and many blessings to you, friends.